Instructor Kell's office was located in the highest tower of the academy section, with windows that looked out over the curve of the station and the stars beyond. Hyunwoo sat in a chair that was designed for someone much larger than him, his feet barely touching the floor. Across the desk, Instructor Kell observed him with her compound eyes, her mandibles clicking softly. "Cadet Hyunwoo," she said, her translated voice coming through the speakers mounted on the walls. "You requested this meeting. I hope you have not wasted my time." Hyunwoo swallowed nervously. He had practiced what he wanted to say all night, but sitting here in front of one of the academy's most senior instructors made his carefully prepared words scatter like leaves in wind. "It's about the Fenrir." "Instructor," he began, "the matter is closed. The creature will be transported off station within the week. But what if there's another way?" The words came out in a rush. "What if the training methods being used are wrong for this particular creature?" Instructor Kell's mandibles stopped clicking. Her massive body leaned forward slightly. "Cadet, the training methods employed by Commander Vexthar are used successfully across the galaxy. He has trained war beasts from 40 different worlds. Are you suggesting that you, a first-year human cadet with no formal training experience, know better than him?" Put that way, it sounded ridiculous. Hyunwoo felt his face grow hot with embarrassment. But he thought about the Fenrir's silver eyes, about the fear he had seen there, and he pushed forward. "Not better, Instructor. Just different. Humans have a history with animals like the Fenrir. We call them canines, dogs. We've been working with them for more than 30,000 years. I'm aware of human domestication practices," Instructor Kell said. "But domestication takes generations of selective breeding. The Fenrir is a wild creature from a death world." "Yes, but the principles are the same," Hyunwoo insisted. "Canines are pack animals. They have social structures based on cooperation and trust, not just dominance. When Commander Vexthar tried to dominate the Fenrir, he was speaking the wrong language. The Fenrir didn't understand what he wanted." Instructor Kell was silent for a long moment. Her 6 legs shifted and she pulled up a holographic display showing the Fenrir's profile. Data scrolled past in languages Hyunwoo couldn't read. "According to our xenobiologist, Fenrir social structure is based on hierarchical pack hunting. The strongest leads. The weak submit or are driven out. This is the model Commander Vexthar was using." "But strength means different things to different species," Hyunwoo said, gaining confidence. "To a Draxian like Commander Vexthar, strength is physical power. But to a pack hunter, strength might be intelligence, or the ability to provide food or protection. When my family got a new dog that was aggressive, we didn't fight it. We showed it that we were a safe pack to belong to." The office door opened and Leah stepped in holding a data pad. She looked at Hyunwoo with an expression that said, "I hope you know what you're doing, Instructor Kell." "I apologize for the interruption," Leah said, "but Cadet Hyunwoo asked me to research human-canine bonding practices. I think you should see this." She placed the data pad on the desk and Instructor Kell studied it. The silence stretched for what felt like hours. Finally, the instructor spoke. "This is remarkable. Humans are the only known species to have formed cooperative bonds with predator species through entirely nonviolent means. Every other species in the alliance either uses genetic modification, psionic control, or force-based conditioning." "Because it works," Leah added. "Dogs became humanity's partners in hunting and protection and companionship. They chose to work with us because we made it beneficial for them, not through force but through mutual respect." Instructor Kell's mandibles clicked rapidly, which Hyunwoo had learned was a sign of deep thought. "Even if your theory is correct, implementing it would require direct contact with the Fenrir. The creature is extremely dangerous. One mistake could be fatal." "I understand the risk," Hyunwoo said. "Do you?" Instructor Kell's voice was sharp. 3 experienced handlers are dead, Cadet. 17 more have been injured. Commander Vexthar himself was nearly killed yesterday, and you are a first-year student with no combat certifications. "I grew up with dogs," Hyunwoo said quietly. "I understand how they think. The Fenrir isn't trying to kill people because it's evil or because it wants to. It's trying to kill people because it's scared and confused. Every interaction it's had since arriving here has been threatening. Of course it fights back." Instructor Kell stood and walked to the window, her 6 legs moving in perfect coordination. She stared out at the stars for a long time. "If I allow this," she said finally, "and you are injured or killed, it will reflect poorly on the entire academy. The human contingent is already small. We cannot afford to lose cadets to foolish experiments. It's not foolish, Leah interjected. It's based on 30,000 years of proven results. On Earth, with domesticated animals. Not on a space station with a war beast from a death world. Instructor Kell turned back to face them. However, I am not entirely opposed to unconventional thinking. That is, after all, why the Alliance accepts students from developing species like humanity. You bring fresh perspectives. Hyunwoo felt a surge of hope. I will give you one supervised session with the Fenrir, Instructor Kell said. 1 hour. If you show any measurable progress, we will delay the termination order and consider alternative training methods. If you show no progress or if you are injured, the matter is closed permanently. Do you accept these terms? Yes, Instructor, Hyunwoo said immediately. Then you have 3 days to prepare. I will arrange for the arena to be configured for maximum safety. There will be emergency teams standing by, and I will personally supervise. Do not make me regret this decision, Cadet. After they left the office, Leah grabbed Hyunwoo's arm in the corridor. Are you sure about this? Really sure? No, Hyunwoo admitted. But I can't just let them kill it without trying. The next 3 days passed in a blur. Hyunwoo spent every free moment studying everything he could find about Fenrirs and Glacius Prime. The planet was a frozen hell, with temperatures that would kill a human in minutes. Fenrirs hunted in packs of 6 to 12 individuals, using coordinated tactics to bring down prey much larger than themselves. They were intelligent, capable of learning and adapting their strategies. But what interested Hyunwoo most was their social behavior. Young Fenrirs engaged in play fighting and retrieval games to develop hunting skills. Older Fenrirs used specific body postures and vocalizations to communicate. The pack structure was complex, with leadership based not just on strength, but on experience and decision-making ability. It was exactly like dogs. Hyunwoo also spent time gathering supplies. He needed something the Fenrir would find interesting, something that would trigger its play instinct. In the Academy's fabrication lab, he created a simple object, a stick about 1/2 meter long made of durable synthetic polymer. It was nothing special, just a stick. Leah watched him work with a mixture of concern and curiosity. You're going to face a Death World predator with a stick? It's not a weapon, Hyunwoo explained. It's a toy, or a tool, or maybe a peace offering. I'm not entirely sure yet. That's reassuring, Leah said dryly. On the morning of the session, Hyunwoo woke up early. His stomach was tight with nervousness and his hands were shaking slightly. He thought about his family back on New Jeju, about his father's calm voice when working with difficult animals. Animals can sense fear, his father used to say, not in some magical way, but through body language and smell. If you're afraid, they'll be afraid, or aggressive. Stay calm, move slow, and always give them a choice. The arena was already prepared when Hyunwoo arrived. Instructor Kell was there, along with Commander Vexithar, who looked at Hyunwoo with an expression that was difficult to read. Respect, pity, maybe both. The Fenrir has been sedated lightly and moved into position, Instructor Kell explained. The sedation will wear off in approximately 10 minutes. Emergency teams are standing by with capture nets and tranquilizer systems. If the Fenrir shows any signs of aggressive behavior toward you, the session will be terminated immediately. Hyunwoo nodded. He was wearing light armor, though he knew it wouldn't do much if the Fenrir really wanted to hurt him. In his hand, he held the stick. Good luck, Cadet, Commander Vexthar said. His translator made his voice sound grave and serious. I hope your human methods prove more effective than mine. The arena door opened and Hyunwoo stepped inside. The alarm bells echoed through the observation deck of Station Theta 7, and Hyunwoo pressed his face closer to the reinforced glass. Below him in the massive training arena, something was going very wrong. Commander Vexthar, the most famous beast trainer in the entire Galactic Alliance, was flying through the air. His forearms flailed uselessly as his body slammed into the metal wall with a sound that made everyone in the observation deck wince. The creature responsible stood in the center of the arena, its lips pulled back to show teeth as long as daggers. The Fenrir was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Its fur was the color of midnight, so dark it seemed to absorb the light around it. Silver eyes glowed with intelligence and rage. The beast was massive, standing as tall as a ground vehicle at its shoulder, with muscles that rippled under its fur like steel cables. When it growled, the sound was so deep that Hyunwoo could feel it vibrate in his chest. This is the 15th attempt, Leah whispered beside him. She was another human cadet, one of only 5 humans in the entire academy this year. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her brown eyes were wide with concern. They've been trying to train it for 3 months now. Hyunwoo nodded but didn't take his eyes off the scene below. Emergency teams were rushing into the arena with nets and shock weapons. The Fenrir turned to face them, its body low and ready to attack. Red lights flashed throughout the facility, and a mechanical voice announced the containment breach protocol. All observation personnel must evacuate immediately. This is not a drill. The other cadets were already moving toward the exits. There were dozens of them, representing at least 20 different species. The Draxians with their scaled skin and multiple arms, the Clixen with their insect-like bodies and compound eyes, the Mindweavers who floated rather than walked, and the humans, so few of them, looking small and fragile compared to most of the others. Come on, Leah tugged at Hyunwoo's sleeve. We need to go. But Hyunwoo stayed for a moment longer, watching as the emergency team surrounded the Fenrir. The beast was snapping and snarling, but it didn't attack. Instead, it backed into a corner, its body pressed against the wall. Its ears were flat against its skull, and its silver eyes darted from one threat to another. It was afraid, Hyunwoo realized. Not vicious, not evil, just terrified. The thought stuck with him as he followed Leah out of the observation deck and into the crowded corridors of the academy. Station Theta 7 was enormous, a floating city in space where the best soldiers from across the galaxy came to train. The corridors were always busy, always filled with cadets rushing to classes or training sessions. Did you see how fast it moved? Leah was saying as they walked. 1 second Vexthar was standing there with his shock staff, and the next second he was airborne. I've never seen anything move that fast. It was scared, Hyunwoo said quietly. Leah looked at him like he was crazy. Scared? That thing weighs more than a small shuttle. It has claws that can cut through armor plating. 3 handlers are dead because of it. Scared is not the word I would use. They reached the cadet barracks, a large open space filled with bunks and lockers. Most of the other cadets were already there, talking excitedly about what they had just witnessed. Hyunwoo moved to his bunk, which was in the corner near a small window that looked out into space. He sat down and stared out at the stars, his mind still on the Fenrir. He had grown up on a farming colony called New Jeju, far from the core worlds where most humans lived. His family raised crops and livestock, and they had dogs to help with the work. Real Earth dogs, descended from animals that had been brought on the colony ships hundreds of years ago. Hyunwoo had grown up with those dogs, had trained them, cared for them, and learned their language of body postures and sounds. The Fenrir reminded him of those dogs. Not in appearance, but in something deeper, in the way it held itself, the way its ears moved, the way its eyes tracked threats. It was a pack animal, he was sure of it, and pack animals needed pack structure, not domination. Later that evening, Instructor Kell called an assembly in the main training hall. The instructor was a Clixen, standing nearly 3 meters tall on her 6 legs. Her mandibles clicked together as she spoke, and translator devices rendered her words into dozens of languages simultaneously. The Fenrir project has been terminated, she announced. After 3 months and 17 injuries, including today's incident with Commander Vexuthar, the decision has been made to return the creature to containment. It will be relocated to a secure facility or, if necessary, euthanized for the safety of all personnel. A murmur went through the assembled cadets. Hyunwoo felt something twist in his stomach. Euthanized. They were going to kill it because they couldn't control it. The Fenrir species are native to Glacius Prime, a death world with gravity twice that of Earth standard, Instructor Kell continued. They are apex predators with enhanced strength, speed, and intelligence. In theory, a trained Fenrir could be worth an entire platoon in ground combat. In practice, they have proven impossible to train using any known method. Her compound eyes swept across the crowd. Let this be a lesson to all of you. Some creatures are simply too wild, too aggressive to be controlled. Force, discipline, and dominance are not always enough. Sometimes the only option is to accept failure and move on. The assembly was dismissed and the cadets filed out. Hyunwoo walked slowly, his mind racing. He thought about what Instructor Kell had said. Force, discipline, and dominance. Those were the tools the Galactic Alliance used for everything. Their military was built on hierarchy and control. Every species they encountered was judged by how well they fit into that structure. But what if the Fenrir didn't work that way? What if it needed something different? Back in the barracks, Hyunwoo couldn't sleep. He lay in his bunk and stared at the ceiling, thinking about his family's dogs back on New Jeju. He thought about Gamja, the old shepherd dog who had been aggressive and mean when he first arrived at the farm. His father had spent months working with Gamja, never hitting him, never forcing him. Just patience, consistency, and kindness. Eventually, Gamja became the gentlest dog they ever had. "You're thinking too loud." Leah's voice came from the bunk next to his. "I can practically hear your brain working from over here." "Sorry," Hyunwoo said. "What's on your mind?" He hesitated, then said, "They're doing it wrong." "Doing what wrong?" "Training the Fenrir. They're treating it like an enemy to be defeated instead of an animal to be understood." Leah sat up in her bunk, her silhouette visible in the dim light. "Hyunwoo, that thing is a war beast from a death world." "It's not a pet." "I know," he said, "but it's still an animal. Animals have patterns, behaviors, needs. You can't just force them to obey. You have to communicate with them in a way they understand." "And you think you can do that?" Hyunwoo was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I think I want to try." Leah laughed, but it wasn't a mean laugh. "You're crazy. You know that, right? You're a first-year cadet. Fexthar has been training war beasts since before you were born and he couldn't handle it. What makes you think you can?" "Because he's been trying to dominate it," Hyunwoo said. "But the Fenrir doesn't want a master. It wants a pack." The next morning, Hyunwoo requested a meeting with Instructor Kel. The arena was larger than it had looked from the observation deck. The floor was smooth metal, marked with scorch marks and deep scratches from previous encounters. The ceiling was high above, lined with lights that cast everything in harsh white brightness. And in the center of the space, still groggy from sedation, was the Fenrir. Bomi, Hyunwoo thought. He had decided on the name last night. It meant spring in Korean, and it felt right somehow. A name meant hope, meant possibility. It meant this creature was more than just a failed project. The Fenrir's silver eyes tracked him as he entered. Its massive head lifted and its ears swiveled forward. Even sedated, it was the most impressive creature Hyunwoo had ever seen. The midnight blue fur seemed to shimmer in the light, and the muscles beneath rippled as the creature rose to its feet. Behind him, the arena door sealed shut with a heavy metallic thud. He was alone with the Fenrir now. No weapons, no shock staffs, no protective barriers. Just him, a stick, and a death world predator that had injured or killed everyone who had tried to control it. Hyunwoo took a deep breath and did something that made everyone in the observation deck gasp. He sat down, not in a defensive crouch, not ready to spring away. He simply sat on the floor, crossed his legs, and placed the stick beside him. Then, he looked away from the Fenrir, turning his head to stare at the wall. In dog language, direct eye contact was a challenge. Looking away was a sign of respect, of non-aggression. He had no idea if Fenrirs used the same signals, but it was worth trying. The Fenrir made a low sound, something between a growl and a rumble. Hyunwoo kept his eyes on the wall, but he could hear the creature moving, the click of its claws on the metal floor, the soft sound of its breathing, deep and steady. Minutes passed. Hyunwoo's legs started to cramp from sitting still, but he didn't move. He kept his breathing slow and calm, the way his father had taught him. Animals could sense stress through changes in breathing and heart rate. Stay calm. Be patient. The Fenrir circled him at a distance. Hyunwoo could see it from the corner of his eye, a massive shadow moving around him like a planet orbiting a star. It was studying him, trying to understand what he was. Every other creature that had entered this arena had been a threat or a challenger. This small thing was just sitting there. After what felt like hours but was probably only 10 minutes, the Fenrir approached closer. Hyunwoo could smell it now, a scent like cold wind and fur and something wild. The creature's breath was hot on his shoulder as it sniffed him, its massive head lowered to his level. Slowly, very slowly, Hyunwoo extended his hand, not toward the Fenrir, not reaching for it, just holding his hand out to the side, offering his scent. In the observation deck, he knew people were holding their breath. One wrong move and those jaws could close on his arm. The Fenrir's nose touched his palm, cold and wet. It sniffed deeply, gathering information. Hyunwoo sat perfectly still. The creature huffed a sound that made his hair flutter, and then backed away a few steps. Good. That was good. It hadn't attacked, hadn't felt threatened. Now came the real test. Hyunwoo picked up the stick, moving slowly and deliberately. The Fenrir's eyes locked onto the object immediately, its body tensing. He could see the prey drive activate, the way its muscles coiled ready to spring. This was a hunter's instinct, hardwired into its brain by millions of years of evolution. He tossed the stick gently across the arena. Not hard, not fast. Just a simple underhand throw that sent the stick tumbling across the floor. The Fenrir exploded into motion. 1 second it was standing still. The next it was a blur of midnight fur and silver eyes. It crossed the arena in 3 bounds, each movement filled with power and grace. Its jaws closed on the stick with a snap that echoed through the space. Now came the critical moment. The part where everything could go right or catastrophically wrong. Hyunwoo slapped his thigh and made an encouraging sound, a high-pitched whistle followed by words in Korean. "Bomi, come here, girl. Good girl, Bomi. Come on." The tone was everything. Not commanding, not aggressive. Inviting. Playful. The way you would call to a friend, not an enemy. The Fenrir froze with the stick in its jaws. Its ears swiveled back and forth, confused by this behavior. Every instinct told it to guard the prize, to take it to a safe corner and protect it from theft. But the small creature wasn't chasing it, wasn't trying to take the stick. It was just sitting there, making friendly sounds. In the observation deck, Instructor Kell leaned forward, her compound eyes wide. Commander Vexthar had all 4 arms crossed over his chest, watching intently. Leah had her hands pressed against the glass, barely breathing. Come on, Hyunwoo thought. Show me I'm right. Show me you understand. The Fenrir took a step toward him, then another. Its tail, which had been low and tense, lifted slightly. Not all the way up, but enough. Enough to show curiosity instead of fear or aggression. Bomi crossed the arena and stopped a few meters from Hyunwoo. She dropped the stick on the ground and backed up a step, watching him with those intelligent silver eyes. Hyunwoo smiled. His heart was pounding so hard he thought it might burst from his chest, but he smiled. Good girl, he said softly. Such a good girl. He picked up the stick and threw it again, this time a bit farther. Bomi watched it fly, then looked back. At him as if asking, you want me to get it again? Hyunwoo whistled and patted his thigh. Get it, go get it! This time Bomi didn't hesitate. She bounded after the stick, her massive body moving with joy now instead of just predatory instinct. She grabbed it, wheeled around and brought it back, dropping it even closer to Hyunwoo this time. They played for 15 minutes. Each throw, Bomi brought the stick back faster, came closer, seemed more relaxed. Her tail started to wag just a little at first, then more enthusiastically. She made sounds too, not growls, but something almost like play vocalizations. Happy sounds. In the observation deck, the assembled instructors and cadets watched in stunned silence. The Fenrir, the creature that had terrorized the academy for 3 months, was playing fetch. Commander Vexthar shook his massive head slowly, all 4 arms hanging loose at his sides. Impossible, he muttered. This is impossible. But it was happening. After the 10th throw, Bomi brought the stick back and didn't drop it. Instead, she came right up to Hyunwoo and placed it in his hand, her massive head level with his. This close, he could see every detail of her face. The patterns in her fur, the intelligence in her eyes, the slight tilt of her head that said, again? Hyunwoo reached out slowly and scratched behind her ear. Bomi's eyes half closed, and she leaned into the touch. Her tail wagged harder. You're not a monster, are you? Hyunwoo whispered. You were just scared and alone. No one spoke your language, but I do. I understand you. He threw the stick again, and Bomi chased it with what could only be described as enthusiasm. This was a creature designed by nature to be a perfect predator, adapted to survive on one of the harshest worlds in known space. And right now, she was playing like a puppy. When the hour was up and Instructor Kell's voice came over the intercom announcing the end of the session, Hyunwoo stood up slowly. His legs were stiff from sitting, and he was covered in fur from where Bomi had brushed against him. The Fenrir sat in front of him, the stick at her feet, tail still wagging. "I have to go now," Hyunwoo said. He didn't know if she understood the words, but she would understand the tone, the regret. "But I'll come back. I promise." He walked to the exit door, and Bomi followed him a few steps before stopping. She sat down and watched him go, her head tilted to one side. The moment Hyunwoo stepped out of the arena, he was surrounded by people. Leah hugged him so hard his ribs hurt. Other cadets were shouting questions, their translators making a cacophony of overlapping voices. Instructor Kel pushed through the crowd, her massive form parting the group like a ship through water. "Cadet Hyunwoo," she said, and her voice carried over all the others. "That was the most remarkable thing I have seen in 30 years of teaching." Commander Vexithar approached, and Hyunwoo tensed, expecting anger or resentment. Instead, the Draxian placed one of his 4 hands on Hyunwoo's shoulder. "You have taught me something today, young human," Vexithar said. "I thought I knew everything about training war beasts. I was wrong. There is more than one way to reach a creature's heart." "So the termination order is cancelled?" Hyunwoo asked hopefully. Instructor Kel's mandibles clicked, and what Hyunwoo had learned was the Klickson equivalent of a smile. "Cancelled and reversed. You will be assigned as Bomi's primary handler, effective immediately. We will develop a new training protocol based on your methods." Hyunwoo looked back through the observation window. Bomi was still sitting where he had left her, the stick at her feet, waiting patiently. He had done it. He had spoken the language of the Fenrir, and she had answered. The news spread through Station Theta 7 like wildfire through dry grass. The human cadet who tamed the untamable Fenrir. By the evening meal, everyone knew Hyunwoo's name. Cadets from other species stopped him in the corridors to ask questions. Some wanted to know his secret. Others just wanted to see the human who had done what the galaxy's best trainers could not. Hyunwoo found the attention uncomfortable. He ate his dinner quickly in the cadet mess hall, trying to ignore the stares and whispers. Leah sat across from him, grinning widely. "You're famous," she said, pushing her tray of synthesized protein and vegetables around with a fork. "I heard some of the senior cadets talking. They're calling you the Fenrir Whisperer." "I wish they wouldn't," Hyunwoo muttered. "I just played fetch with a dog. It's not that special." "A dog?" a voice said from behind him. Hyunwoo turned to see a human male cadet standing there holding his own meal tray. He was stocky and muscular with a shaved head and sharp eyes. That thing could eat a dog. "It's a war beast from a death world. Minho, right?" Leah said. "Combat specialist track?" "That's me." Minho sat down at their table without asking. "I watched your session from the observation deck. Most impressive thing I've ever seen. How did you know it would work?" "I didn't," Hyunwoo admitted. "I just hoped." Another cadet approached, a human female with long black hair tied in a braid. She wore the gray uniform marking her as an engineering student. "Mind if I join you?" "Sure," Hyunwoo said, grateful that at least some of the attention was coming from other humans. There were so few of them on the station that they tended to stick together. "I'm Ji-won," the female cadet said as she sat down. "Engineering track. I've been reading about human-animal bonding since your session this morning. It's fascinating. No other species has anything quite like it. Most species either dominate their animals or engineer them genetically," Leah added. "Humans are unique in forming genuine partnerships." They talked through dinner, and Hyunwoo felt himself relaxing. These were people who understood, who saw what he had done not as magic or luck but as the application of ancient knowledge. By the time they finished eating, they had formed a kind of informal group. The next morning, Hyunwoo returned to the arena for his second session with Bomi. This time, Instructor Kel had arranged for Leah, Minho, and Ji-won to observe from inside the arena, rather than the observation deck. They stood near the entrance, nervous but excited. Bomi was already there, pacing back and forth. When she saw Hyunwoo, her tail started wagging immediately. She bounded over to him, and this time she didn't hesitate at all. She pressed her massive head against his chest, nearly knocking him over. Hyunwoo laughed and scratched behind her ears. "Good morning to you too, girl." He had brought several items with him today. The stick, of course, but also a synthetic rope for tugging games and a ball made of durable rubber. He spent the first hour just playing with Bomi, building on the trust they had established. But he also started introducing simple commands. "Sit," he said, using a hand gesture along with the word. Bomi looked at him with confusion. Hyunwoo gently pressed on her hindquarters, guiding her into a sitting position. The moment she sat, he praised her enthusiastically and threw the stick for her to chase. After a dozen repetitions, Bomi understood. The word and gesture meant sit. Sitting earned praise and play. It was simple, clear communication. Come, he called as Bomi stood across the arena. He patted his thigh and backed up a few steps. Bomi trotted to him and he praised her again. Stay. He held up his palm. Bomi stood still for a few seconds, then started to move. Stay, he repeated more firmly. She stopped. When she held position for 5 seconds, he called her to him and rewarded her with the rope toy for a tug-of-war game. Leah, Minho, and Jiwon watched in amazement. Instructor Kel observed from the observation deck, taking notes. After a week of daily sessions, Bomi knew a dozen commands. More importantly, she was calm and focused when working with Hyunwoo. The aggressive, fearful creature that had terrorized the academy had been replaced by an attentive, eager student. But Hyunwoo knew that Bomi needed more than just him. Fenrirs were pack animals. She needed to accept others into her social group. Today I want to try something, he told Instructor Kel before the session. I want to introduce Bomi to the others, to Leah, Minho, and Jiwon. Let them become part of her pack. Is that wise? Instructor Kel asked. The Fenrir has bonded with you, but she may still see others as threats. Dogs can accept new pack members if they're introduced properly, Hyunwoo explained. Bomi needs to understand that my friends are her friends too. The introduction was done carefully. Leah went first, entering the arena while Hyunwoo sat with Bomi. The Fenrir tensed, a low growl rumbling in her chest. But Hyunwoo placed his hand on her head, speaking softly. It's okay, girl. She's pack. She's safe. Leah sat down several meters away, not making eye contact, copying what Hyunwoo had done in his first session. After several minutes, Hyunwoo called Leah closer. Bomi watched carefully but didn't growl. Hold out your hand, Hyunwoo instructed. Let her sniff you. Leah's hand trembled slightly, but she held it steady. Bomi sniffed her hand, then huffed and backed away. Not acceptance yet, but not rejection either. They repeated the process over several days. Each session, Leah came closer, stayed longer. Hyunwoo always stayed nearby, his presence assuring Bomi that this was safe. Eventually, Bomi allowed Leah to touch her, then to play with her. The same process was repeated with Minho and Jiwon. After 3 weeks, all 4 humans could work with Bomi comfortably. They became her pack, and she accepted them completely. Training sessions became more complex, with the group teaching Bomi tactical exercises disguised as games. Retrieve became a search and rescue drill, where Bomi had to find hidden objects in a mock battlefield. Chase became pursuit training, where she learned to track moving targets. Guard became defensive positioning, where she learned to protect her pack members from simulated threats. Commander Vexithar visited often, watching the training with a mixture of admiration and something like envy. One day he approached Hyunwoo after a particularly successful session. Your methods are revolutionary, Vexithar said. But there are doubters. Members of the Academy Board who believe this approach is too soft, too slow. They say that a war beast trained through friendship will not be aggressive enough in real combat. Bomi isn't soft, Hyunwoo protested. She's just not constantly angry and afraid. I agree. For they do not. Vexthar's forearms crossed over his chest. They are arranging a combat simulation. Your team and Bomi versus a squad of veteran cadets with non-lethal weapons. If you fail, Bomi will be reassigned to traditional handlers. If you succeed, your methods will become official doctrine. Hyunwoo felt his stomach tighten. When? 3 days. The news hit the team hard. Minho paced back and forth in the barracks, his fists clenched. This is politics. They don't want to admit that a bunch of first-year humans found a better way. Doesn't matter why they're doing it, Jiwon said calmly, adjusting her glasses. What matters is that we win. How do we win against veterans? Leah asked. They've been training for years. We've been here for 3 months. We have Bomi, Hyunwoo said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. They're testing whether she'll be effective in combat. So we show them. We trust her, and we trust each other. The 3 days passed quickly. They trained constantly, developing tactics and signals. Bomi learned to respond to hand gestures so she could take commands silently. She practiced moving with the team, coordinating attacks and defensive positions. The simulation was held in the Academy's urban warfare facility, a massive room configured to look like a destroyed city. Buildings, vehicles, rubble, all of it designed to test combat skills in realistic conditions. The opposing team consisted of 8 veteran cadets from various species. They were equipped with stun weapons that would register as kills if they hit. Hyunwoo's team had 4 members and Bomi. Instructor Kel stood at the control center, her voice echoing through the facility. Mission parameters. The defending team must hold the central plaza for 15 minutes. The attacking team must take control of the plaza. Non-lethal weapons only. Injuries will result in immediate termination of the simulation. Begin. The veteran team moved with precision, using cover and coordinated fire. They were good, very good. Hyunwoo's team fell back quickly, using Bomi as a mobile defense. Bomi left flank, Hyunwoo called softly. The Fenrir moved like a shadow, circling around to where 2 enemy cadets were advancing. She didn't attack immediately. Instead, she positioned herself between them and Hyunwoo's team, growling low. The enemy cadets hesitated. They had stun weapons, but facing a Fenrir at close range was terrifying even in simulation. That moment of hesitation was enough. Minho appeared from cover and tagged them both with stun shots. The battle continued for 12 minutes. Bomi was everywhere, responding to commands instantly, coordinating with the team in ways that no conditioned war beast could match. She adapted to changing situations, made decisions on her own when needed, and always protected her pack. 3 months had passed since the simulation. Hyunwoo had become comfortable in his role as Bomi's handler, and the Fenrir had become something of a celebrity on Station Theta 7. Other trainers came to study Hyunwoo's methods, and several new war beasts were being trained using similar approaches. Commander Vexthar himself had become an advocate, teaching classes on trust-based animal training. Everything changed on a Tuesday morning. Hyunwoo was in the middle of a training session with Bomi when the alarm bells started ringing. Not the standard training alarms, but the deep, resonant emergency bells that meant something serious was happening. The lights in the arena shifted from white to red, and Instructor Kel's voice came over the intercom system. All cadets report to Briefing Room 7 immediately. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. In the briefing room, hundreds of cadets assembled in organized chaos. Hyunwoo found Leah, Minho, and Jiwon in the crowd. They stood together, watching as the massive display screens came to life, showing star maps and tactical data. Instructor Kel appeared at the front of the room, flanked by other senior instructors. Her mandibles were clicking rapidly, a sign of stress. At 0400 hours this morning, the Void Swarm launched a major offensive against the mining colony of Arcturus 6th, she announced. The colony has a population of 14,000 civilians and a defense force of approximately 200 soldiers. They are being overrun. All available military units are being deployed, including senior academy cadets. The room erupted in murmurs. The Void Swarm was the enemy that every species in the Alliance feared. They were creatures that were part biological, part machine, consuming everything in their path and converting it into more of themselves. Entire planets had fallen to the swarm. Your class was scheduled to graduate in 6 months, Instructor Kel continued. That timeline is now accelerated. Those of you with sufficient training scores will be deployed immediately. The rest will continue training here. A list of names appeared on the screen. Hyunwoo saw his name along with Leah, Minho, and Jiwon. They were going to war. Deployed cadets will join Rapid Response Unit 17. You leave in 4 hours, dismissed. The next 4 hours passed in a blur. Hyunwoo packed his gear, checked his equipment 3 times, and tried to ignore the fear growing in his stomach. This wasn't training anymore. This was real. People were going to die. Maybe him, maybe his friends. The worst part was explaining it to Bomi. The Fenrir knew something was wrong. She pressed against him as he packed, whining softly. Animals could sense emotional states, and Hyunwoo's stress was obvious. I have to go away for a while, he told her, scratching behind her ears the way she liked. But I'll come back. I promise. Commander Vexthar appeared at the arena entrance. His 4 arms carried a custom harness designed specifically for Bomi. The Fenrir has been approved for deployment, he said. She goes with you? Hyunwoo felt relief wash over him. Having Bomi with them would make everything easier, or at least less terrifying. The transport ship that took them to Arcturus 6 was crowded with soldiers and equipment. It was a 4-day journey through hyperspace, and every day the news got worse. The Void Swarm was advancing faster than expected. The civilian evacuation was behind schedule. The defensive lines were collapsing. Hyunwoo spent the journey with his team and Bomi, going over tactics and trying to stay calm. Other soldiers on the ship watched the Fenrir with a mixture of awe and nervousness. Most of them had heard the story of how she was trained. Some came to meet her, offering careful scratches behind her ears while Bomi's tail wagged. When they arrived at Arcturus 6, the situation was even worse than reported. The sky was dark with smoke from burning buildings. In the distance, they could see the swarm, a writhing mass of mechanical biological horror that consumed everything it touched. Unit 17 was assigned to hold a critical canyon pass that led to the evacuation point. If the swarm broke through, they would reach the civilian transports before everyone could escape. The unit commander, a grizzled Draxian named Commander Tavik, gathered everyone for a brief. "We hold for 1 hour," he said simply. "That's all the time the evacuation needs. 1 hour and then we fall back." "Understood?" Everyone nodded, but Hyunwoo could see the fear in their eyes. 1 hour against the void swarm felt like an eternity. The defensive position was in a narrow canyon with steep walls on both sides. It was a good choke point, but it also meant there was no room to retreat if things went wrong. The unit set up barricades and weapon emplacements. Hyunwoo positioned his team on the left flank, with Bomi at the center. They didn't have to wait long. The swarm came like a wave of nightmares, creatures that walked on too many legs with bodies that seemed to shift between metal and flesh. Some were small and fast, others were massive and armored. They made sounds that weren't quite mechanical and weren't quite biological, a horrifying combination of both. The battle started with long-range fire. Energy weapons and projectile weapons lit up the canyon with light and sound. The swarm kept coming, climbing over their own dead, adapting to each type of attack. They were learning, evolving in real time. Hyunwoo fired his rifle in controlled bursts, trying to conserve ammunition. Beside him, Leah operated a heavy weapon emplacement, cutting down swarm units as they advanced. Minyo was on close defense, using a shock blade to handle anything that got past the barricades. Jiwon worked frantically to keep the automated defenses running as the swarm's interference tried to shut them down. And Bomi was everywhere. She moved through the battle like lightning, her midnight blue fur splattered with the strange fluids that leaked from destroyed swarm units. She responded to commands instantly, but she also acted on her own initiative, protecting the team without being told. 30 minutes into the battle, the swarm sent something new. A massive unit, the size of a ground vehicle with armor plating that deflected most weapons fire. It charged directly at the defensive line, crushing smaller swarm units that got in its way. "Heavy unit center position," Commander Tavik shouted. "All fire on target." Energy weapons and projectiles hammered into the creature, but it kept coming. Hyunwoo could see it was heading straight for a weak point in the defenses, a gap where several soldiers had fallen. If it broke through there, the entire line would collapse. He looked at Bomi, and in that moment he knew what he had to do. It was dangerous, possibly suicidal, but there was no other choice. "Bomi," he called. The Fenrir's head snapped toward him instantly. "Chase and attack. Take it down." Bomi's silver eyes met his, and he swore he saw understanding there. She knew this was different from training. This was real, and it was dangerous, but her pack needed her. The Fenrir launched herself at the heavy unit with a roar that echoed through the canyon. She hit it from the side, her massive jaws clamping onto what looked like a joint in its armor. The heavy unit tried to shake her off, but Bomi held on, her powerful muscles straining. Hyunwoo ran forward, firing his rifle at the creature's exposed areas. Minyo appeared beside him, shock blade blazing. Together they attacked the heavy unit while Bomi distracted it, keeping its attention divided. The battle between Bomi and the heavy unit was savage. The creature's mechanical limbs struck at her, and Hyunwoo saw blue-black blood matting her fur, but she didn't let go. She adjusted her grip, targeting different weak points, working with an intelligence that no simple war beast should have possessed. Hyunwoo saw his opening, the creature's main power core exposed by Bomi's attacks. He took careful aim and fired 3 shots directly into it. The heavy unit shuddered and collapsed. Bomi leaped away just before it exploded, landing beside Hyunwoo. She was bleeding from several wounds, her breathing heavy, but her tail was still up, still ready to fight. "Good girl," Hyunwoo said, his voice shaking. "Such a good girl." The battle continued for the full hour. Every minute felt like forever. But when Commander Tavik finally gave the order to fall back, they had held. The evacuation was complete. They had won. The extraction ships came for them, pulling the surviving soldiers out of the canyon just as the swarm overran the position. Hyunwoo sat in the transport with his team, exhausted and covered in blood and dirt. Bomi lay beside him, her massive head on his lap. The medical team had treated her wounds, saying she would make a full recovery. Leah was crying quietly, the stress and fear finally catching up with her. Minyo stared at nothing, his hands still shaking from adrenaline. Jiwon was already asleep, her body finally giving in to exhaustion. Hyunwoo looked down at Bomi and scratched behind her ears. They had survived, together. As Pak, 2 weeks later, back on Station Theta 7, there was a ceremony. Hyunwoo and his team were decorated for valor. Bomi received a special commendation, the first ever given to a war beast trained through human methods. But more importantly, the Galactic Military Academy officially adopted trust-based training protocols for all war beast programs. Commander Vexthar announced that he would personally oversee the new training division, incorporating human methods with traditional approaches.